We're live. Well, streaming. It's finna take us live.
We are live. So this is the Saturday edition of After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. We are streaming live on YouTube right now. So if you know people who usually listen to the show or watch the show typically on Facebook, let them know that we're live on YouTube right now. And we'll also put the link up so that you can share it with your friends. So this is After the Buzzers Sports Podcast. We're live this Saturday. Let's go.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. Happy Saturday, everyone. As always, I'm your man, Marvin Orange. We have Raquel Thomas with us. As always, Mr. Lee Jones and LP in the background, keeping us nice and fresh and in tune with all you guys. We got a great show today, guys. We got a lot of topics we want to cover. Some really good things that we want to discuss. We want you guys to join into the conversation. Hit us up, 803-570-5031. Let's see what you got to say about some of these things because a lot of great things going on in the world of sports right now. To get started, the NCAA is asking Congress to step in and set a national standard for name, image, and likeness in college sports to keep the integrity of college recruiting. Should Congress get involved? What are your thoughts on that? That's a pretty heavy subject and a lot of different ways it could go. Former Ohio State University football coach Urban Meyer, also used to be University of Florida, among other places, has moved, saying moving football to the spring, he would advise top college players to sit out the season. What do you guys feel about that? Is that a good move for some of those top talent going into the NFL draft? A group of University of Kentucky faculty would like to change the school name of Rupp Arena as part of a 10-point racial equity plan. What do you guys think about that in terms of Rupp Arena, some of the history that goes along with that? We really love to see how you guys feel. NFL training camps, they're opening next week. Let's discuss who you guys think in the AFC North is going to come out victorious. I think we all pretty much know that division is dominated right now by one team, but there could be some sleepers. So let's hear what you guys think about that. And staying with the NFL, who are the top five running backs in the NFL today? You know, the league's changed a little bit. The traditional running back is not as traditional anymore. So you guys weigh in and tell us what you think on who the top five backs are right now. Moving to the NBA, Becky Hammond, she's coaching for the San Antonio Spurs in the exhibition games while in the NBA bubble. Do you think a female can have major success as a head coach at the NBA at this time? Power rankings as well. Who are the top five NBA teams, regardless of conference right now, going into the restart of the NBA season? Who are you guys looking to make some noise? Moving to Major League Baseball since they got started here a few days ago with the opening day. Friday was the former San Francisco Slugger Barry Bonds' 56th birthday. Should he be in the Hall of Fame, regardless of some of the things that have been out there about Barry Bonds? Do his numbers stand alone, and should he be in the Hall of Fame? Let's get your thoughts on that. But staying in baseball, Jackie Robinson's final year in the majors was 1956. African Americans constituted 6.7% of major league rosters then. Today, the number is only 7.7%, according to major league numbers. Why so few African Americans in baseball, and why are they not growing up to play baseball? We'd love to get your thoughts on that. It's a pretty big topic here lately. And last but not least, I know this has been debated in every bar and barbershop around the country, but Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., they'll do an eight-round exhibition match in September. What are your thoughts about this potential match? Are we excited about seeing Roy Jones with those hands and Mike to see if he still got that power? What you guys think about that? Again, let's jump into these topics, but you guys hit us up, 803-570-5031. Let's get this hot debate started. Lee, start us off. The NCAA wants the Congress to step in and set a national standard for name, likeness, and image. What do you think about that? Get us started off hot here, man.
Yeah, I think it's just an extension of the NCAA trying to let somebody else regulate who they are and keep them from themselves. Really, that's what I think it is. I think when you look at this, individual, you, me, Raquel, everybody has a right to go out and get paid off of their name, right? So the NCAA is trying to use it as a tool to keep the blue bloods their recruiting advantage, in my opinion, keep them ahead of the recruiting game, and they want to enlist Congress to set a standard when, hey, free market is free market, right? You know,
Right.
if I can go out and get $50,000 to do a trade show, that's my business. That should be on me. And so I just feel that they're trying to do similar to what they've always done, is to protect themselves from themselves and keep the recruiting advantage where it lies. Let me ask you this. Do they say anything about the facilities at Alabama, at Clemson, at, Florida State? All of these beautiful facilities that when kids come on, that's an advantage too, right? But nobody says anything about that, yet they want them to regulate the name, image, and likeness so that there won't be an advantage. That's ridiculous. That's sort of hypocritical in my opinion. So no, it's a ploy that the NCAA knows that name, image, and likeness is going to happen, right? Athletes are going to be able to profit off of their names, but now they want one standard to protect them from themselves. I find it kind of disgusting. I don't think Congress is going to go for that. And I'm looking forward to this Bill of Rights that they're talking about for student athletes as far as health and safety and a name, image, and likeness that'll help and make sure that these kids are properly compensated in the way that they need to be.
Yeah, and in thinking about that, Lee, why should this only apply to student athletes? I mean, there's no cap on coaches' salaries.
Right.
There's no cap on facility upgrades, or any other method to make the school look better for potential student athletes. So it's and it's a good thing that you said hypocritical. On the surface, it's just plainly hypocritical. And I think that Congress probably would be smart to kind of stay away from this because it is a slippery slope. And then they also, and I think in the letter, it was also talking about the endorsement deal that players could sign. They don't want them to sign with a company that already represents the school, right? And then they want to block him from being able to sign with a competitor that represents the school that they play for. So, I mean, all of these rules that they're trying to make basically doesn't give a student athlete any opportunity to make any kind of money in the long game. So, I mean, it's hypocritical. It's silly. Again, this is all about, keeping the student athlete down. But I agree with what you said. I mean, at face value, it's just so hypocritical what they're trying to do right now. Raquel?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think, everyone makes money off of the college student except the college student, right? There's no balance in college sports when it comes to the money that's being made off their name, and they are the image. They're all servicing under one logo, obviously for the universities, colleges they play for, but everybody benefits financially except the student. We know that their college tuitions are paid, and that's great. But at the end of the day, when you look at the difference between what the school brings in, if you just look at pure percentages of the money that the school makes versus what college tuition costs, is almost like stealing from a baby, if you will. We don't have the conversations about how much money coaches are being paid, but yet you have student athletes who can't feed themselves, who can't go out and buy personal items if they're not under the thumb of the coach. So I agree completely. I think there's a lot of money there is a lot of money being made, and the college athlete certainly doesn't get to benefit from that. And I think there should be a plan in place that benefits everyone across the board and not just the owners of the college, because college is a business. Universities are businesses. They're operating financial statements. They're delegating money left, right, putting it where they feel is necessary. So if you feel that the science department needs $1 million to buy new robots, why isn't a budget set aside for college athletes to have a life? So I agree with both of you guys. I think it's past due for this to happen in college sports.
Lee, maybe you can help me with this. When you were talking about the Bill of Rights, was that something that Cory Booker brought up? Because I saw briefly where he was saying something about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Trying to get together a Bill of Rights, that covers health and safety for these athletes, that name, image, and likeness. I mean, compensation, they haven't bridged that yet, but I think that'll be something as well. Probably some increase in the amount of pay money they can get or stipend. So they're trying to generate that as a standard. But, and that's just to protect them because, Marv, as well as I do, these guys basketball players, football players, they leave injured, battered, and bruised, right?
Yep.
And then the insurance doesn't even carry over after
Right.
you guys get through playing. So
Right.
how can you football, I mean, in basketball as well, but football, you're broken, right? Even in those 4 or 5 years that you play in college, but you don't have that extended health care. And so they're
Yeah.
trying to get that together to formulate something that will help the standards for college athletics and college athletes. I think it's a great thing as long as they don't restrict the compensation that
Right.
an individual can get.
Well, it's a good. Well, having Cory Booker working on it, he played at Stanford. I don't know if a lot of people know he played tight end at Stanford. So, that's a good thing in terms from a player standpoint, having somebody that could be possibly working on the bill that knows what it's like. And you said a good thing. Some of us play 4 years. Maybe some of us are lucky enough to play professionally somewhere after. But I don't know anybody that's played sports, no matter what level it's been, especially when you get to college, where today we're not saying, man, how long did it take you before you could walk straight this morning? Or how fast did it take you 15 an hour before you just even started walking straight? Like it is. You leave there pretty bruised and battered. And you're right. As soon as you're done at the university, you're an afterthought if you're not on in the NFL or the NBA. So, that would be interesting to see kind of how this Bill of Rights plays out. Moving on, keeping on with football, though, we have former Ohio State coach Urban Meyer. He stated that if college football is moved to the spring, he would advise top players to sit out the season. Do you guys think he's just in kind of saying this for some of these players? What are your thoughts on players sitting out the spring football season?
I know Lee is probably going to be long-winded on this one, and I'll be quick. I think it depends on the player, right? I think some guys are going to need this season while other guys will not. I think it depends on the player more than anything else, in all honesty. I think if you have some time and you can sit out a season, great. But for some of these guys, they're on the pine and they're trying to go into the NFL. So I really think it depends on the player. I think from a coaching standpoint, the coaches want their best players to get on the field, period, because they still want to win. If you got to suit up and get on the field, you want to win. But I think when we look at the economics of football and what could possibly happen before going into the draft, for some players, I think it's going to be a great idea. But for other players, I think they have to play and they don't have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, Raquel. Before you go, Lee, if you think about it, I think about it in terms of reps, and it was good that Urban Meyer said that. How many reps are these players going to have in a calendar year? If you got some guys getting over 2,000 reps in a football season, meaning actual games played, and then they got to turn around, they get drafted and participate in OTAs for the NFL, that's a lot of wear and tear on the body for a young person. It's too much. So if you're in a position in college where you can make some money playing in the NFL, of course it'll be beneficial for you to sit out. Why would you play? But the flip side is going to be what kind of pressure will they get from the university to play? A lot of these guys are loyal to their universities, their coaches, they will play. But imagine what college football will look like if they decide to move to the spring and Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or some of these guys decide not to play. It's going to change the whole landscape of college football and the competitive advantage some of these schools have. So, yeah, they should sit out. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as that because those kids are going to have a lot of pressure put on them to play.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up two people that we'll just stay right there, Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. You have to look at if they push the season back in the spring, it'll probably start March, right?
Yeah.
March and go through May, right?
Yep.
Depending on how many games they play, but either way, when you talk about the reps, that's a lot of wear and tear on their bodies. And then you would say, the NFL would probably push the draft back, or they may even keep the draft in late April, sometime in May. Their OTAs start in May, and they start in June. So they will be finishing up a college football season and going straight into OTAs without any rest for their bodies. And maybe a quarterback could do it, Marv, but what about a running back? What about linemen who bump heads every play? What about a linebacker who's using his body to physically, accost somebody? That's a lot. And then you go from May, June, straight into the NFL training camp in July. man, that's to me, that's a recipe for disaster as far as their body and what they're putting on the line. Injuries happening, you know, this muscles tear, soft tissue tear on your body, and that could cripple you for your entire rookie year. So
Yeah.
I think I got applaud Urban Meyer as you did as far as sitting out, because look, now some people, if they're going to improve their draft status, I agree with Raquel, you have to play. But if you're draft eligible, and especially if you're a senior, they've already scouted you your junior year.
Right.
So,
Right.
so you probably could improve your draft status by playing, but they have a book on you. There are some people that need that extra year, and some of them probably will play. But for the majority of them, there's no way I advise my client to play if they move the season to the spring. Just too much risk as far as your professional career. So I wouldn't do it at all. And I commend Urban Meyer. Now, he's broadcasting for Fox right now.
Right.
So, I mean, you can easily say that now, but there again, the coaches have to, as they say, look out for the best interest of the player. And I don't know what that conversation will look like. So.
Yeah. Hey, guys out there, call in. Tell us what you think. 803-570-5031. Call in, tell us what you kind of think about college football and if these guys should sit out. And, you know, that did kind of change my opinion on things, too, though. Like, now I'm more sure than ever that they're going to start this college football season. It might not start on, what's the first game? September 19th or September 9th, I think it might have been.
Yeah.
One of the first games starting off.
Yep.
They playing. But, you know, now that I think they playing because they cannot risk to have a watered down college football season, because that is exactly what you're going to have. All the stars are going to sit. You know, there's several guys, University of Alabama, who already talked about if it moved to the spring, they will not play. You know, nobody in their right mind would tell Trevor Lawrence to play in the spring at Clemson University. I mean, you just wouldn't. And if Clemson made him play, then it becomes you don't have the best interest of this young man's, you know, future in mind. So they got to play. So
10 games, you know, 8 to 10 games in the fall is much better than them playing in the spring. So, you know, you'll probably see a 10-game season, right?
Yeah.
8 to 10 game season, as long as they get all the conference games in. And that's good because you have the stars there. But if you try to move them to spring, those kids, families and potential agents, they haven't signed yet, but tell them no way you should be playing. And so I agree with you. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think just the thought of injury alone. What do you guys think about? So I agree. If you're going to play in the fall, then you should only play conference games. All the other stuff just needs to go. But what happens, and we'll go back to COVID-19, what happens when that star, who we don't want to play in the spring because we don't want him to get hurt and blah, 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 right? What happens in the fall when he catches COVID and he can't play? It's a situation to me. I think they can't win, really. I think when one player gets COVID, we're going to have a handful of others because it's so viral. I don't think there's a win-win situation because when they're affected by COVID, and they're going to be, with the numbers right now, we can't avoid it. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be so lucky and fortunate to have all the perks that the NFL are going to have, right, to prevent it, because I haven't heard those conversations for college players, all the things that the NFL are going to implement with the helmet and the O-ring and all that jazz. What happens when your star has COVID?
Man, Raquel, I think the NCAA just hoping on hope, that nobody gets it, hoping that everything goes the way it kind of goes. Because I mean, that's all you really can do at this point.
Yeah.
They're gonna play the season. We know what's gonna happen. But you saw where Michigan State. I think, did you see this, Lee? Or you guys see this, where Michigan State had to quarantine the whole football team?
Yes,
like
I did. I saw that.
Yeah, just got quarantined. So are we so naive to think that this is not going to happen during the season? I mean, like,
I agree. We're back at ground zero. I think
we're going to be back at ground zero.
But one of the stars are going to end up with it.
I think it's going to happen. People are going to catch it, but I do think they're going to isolate. Look, If you think they're
And
not
what they're
going
gonna
go.
do,
Here
what
we
they're gonna
go.
do
That's
is
what I
still
said,
play. They're gonna still play these guys, and they have COVID. Is what's gonna happen.
I don't
That's
think
what's gonna
That's
happen right
gonna
there.
happen.
I
They're
don't
That's
gonna
think
have
what's gonna happen.
COVID-19, and they're gonna still play football
that,
That's
that,
right.
because of the dollars
that's
you're
a
talking about.
tremendous liability right there, Raquel. I don't think that will happen. I don't
There are
think that'll happen.
liabilities on college football fields every single game that we never hear about, that we never know about, and COVID is not going to be any different. There are a lot of things that are going on that we don't get now, that are
but
business liabilities, that are legal liabilities that we never know about.
I disagree. I think that
As important as you are, Lee, as important as you are, I know you think you know everything that happens in these college locker rooms, but frankly, you do not.
no, I never said that. I never said that. But what I do know is I believe that there's potential, Mar, of a football game on any given Saturday or Thursday being canceled because of a COVID outbreak. I do think that there's a possibility that would happen where they cancel a game because of too many players contract the virus. I think that may happen. I think that's a realistic thing that could certainly occur. But if you think that these guys are not playing, you just forget it, Raquel. I don't know everything, but I know that these guys are going to play unless there is something just drastically, the outbreak is just hits everybody. And it may happen that way, but they're going to play. But is there potential for a game to be canceled? But I don't think they're going to play people with COVID. I disagree with that.
Nah, Lee, this is what's gonna happen. Lee,
The test is
you
going to
stop.
take 3 weeks to come back, right? And
Right.
we're just not going to look at the results. They're going to get lost in the mail.
Lee, this
Do
Let
you
me-
feel
let-
good? Can you breathe? Do you feel good? Okay, we just gonna
Right.
put it. And when we get the test back,
Right.
we'll worry about it then.
let me tell you how it's gonna happen. Just like what Raquel just said. They're gonna walk Lee into the room. Lee, okay, you just tested positive for COVID. How you feel? You feel okay? Because we play LSU next weekend. You feel all right.
And we can make this
No,
test
no,
go
hold
away
on.
if we really want to.
Do you think
Now you feeling okay, and I want you to, give me where this money need to go. And as long as you feeling okay, give me where this money need to go, and this don't got to go nowhere but outside of this room.
Yeah,
Let me
we're
tell
gonna
you how
make
that's
the
gonna
test
go.
go away. It's gonna go away. We don't have to worry about
It's
this
gonna
anymore.
go away.
That's right.
The risk of that getting out, Marv, is way too big. It's too huge for that to happen.
Not if that check is the right amount going into those bank
That's
accounts.
way too much. So that won't happen. I disagree with that. Hey, it's a great scenario. And Raquel, when you make your film about COVID-19, I want you to put that in the movie, of course. But hey, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Starring Lee Jones as COVID-19 patient. Yeah. All right, guys. Moving on. We're gonna move on to NCAA basketball or at University of Kentucky. Faculty would like to change the name of Rupp Arena as part of a 10-point equity plan. What are your thoughts? Is this long overdue? How do you guys feel about this demand from some of the faculty at University of Kentucky?
I feel like we're beating this thing in the ground, honestly. And we've been talking about this for weeks with different colleges, NFL teams, same thing. Change the name, let's move on. We know how degrading it is for, our people. Like I don't feel the need anymore to spend quality time talking about it. It needs to be done, get it done, and let's move on.
Lee?
Woo! Raquel, boy, I tell you, we got to have you on the front lines every time. You're going to be our new Al Sharpton on the front lines.
I'm telling you, boy.
Look, we and Marv, you playing college, Rupp Arena is a way of life for those people in Kentucky, right? Adolph Rupp is, beloved in Kentucky, and I commend the Black faculty and I'm sure some white faculty as well at the University of Kentucky for them wanting to put together a 10-point plan to not only this but other things. But let's stay with Rupp Arena. We know how racist Adolph Rupp was. People have seen the movie Glory Road that depicts that, what type of person he was, but he was even worse in person. So it's a stigma that needs to change. I think it's great that they're pushing towards this. It'll be interesting to me to see if it actually happens, Mark, because hey, that name has been named. That arena has been named after Adolph Rupp since it was built.
Yeah, since it was built.
And that's not going to be an easy thing for the state. I mean, for the state of Kentucky to accept. And I'll be watching that very closely. We'll see how far that state has come when they start to debate whether they're going to change Rupp Arena. It's needed, and I agree with you, Raquel. But we'll see where the country's going and where some of these red states, even though I think they have a Democratic governor now in Kentucky, but we'll see where they're going with social justice and equality. Let's see what they change the Rupp Arena to. Maybe it'll be John Calipari Arena. That has a good ring to it. Shoot,
I mean, he making $8 million a year. You might as well change it to John Calipari. I mean, that's what it might as well be. But listen, it's interesting though, because as someone who has played at Rupp Arena, coming from a basketball perspective, there is something when you walk in that arena. It's 30,000, a sea of blue, and you see that Rupp Arena on the court. I mean, you don't think about the racial aspect of it when you're playing in it. So, and I think a lot of fans have kind of come out and said, that's not what we think about. It's just the standard of what we've created here at Kentucky as an arena. Now, that arena is intimidating, I will tell you. But I've talked to some guys who are former players at the University of Kentucky, and all of them to a man have said it needed to go.
Yeah.
They all knew the history in which they played under, but they went to Kentucky because Kentucky get into the league. They didn't go there for any other reason but to get to the league and to get to where they want to go. But if you ask them that today, they're all in agreement that it needs to go. And some of the things that they brought up in terms of what they're looking for, the one that I really liked was the Black representation among faculty at the University of Kentucky, the 15%, which reflects the Black population in Lexington. Requiring courses on inequity for all undergraduates. Like, there are some things that they put in here that are really good. But Lee, like you said, man, that blue blood, that Rupp Arena, it runs deep. I mean, it runs deep all the way back to, like you said, the national championship. I think Pat Riley won on that team. I wasn't quite that old. But that Texas Western team that beat them for the championship.
Riley was on that team.
He was on that team?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That was on that team. And then 2 years later, after Texas Western beat the brakes off Kentucky, now he's all of a sudden recruiting Black players. I think it was 2 years later they had their first Black player. It might have been like a 7'2" center or something from Louisville. So it runs deep. But like you said, we're going to see how far people have come in terms of what they're willing to really do rather than give lip service. Are they really willing to make something tangible with changing Rupp Arena? But when you drive up to Rupp Arena, Lee, hold on, one more thing. I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. You can't get away from Rupp.
Yeah.
You walk in, the locker room is everywhere. So it'll be interesting.
Now, I went to a University of Louisville. My godson played there, and they played in Lexington, man.
Okay.
And you see it, Ma. You see it every place. I mean, you see it every place. It's. I mean, But let me ask you this: you talk about your friends that played. Did they say that they discussed it? Was it any? Did they discuss the history? Was it just taboo? How did they feel while being enrolled and on the team? Was it ever discussed, or it was just taboo and they just, they knew about it but never discussed it?
I don't know. I don't know if it ever was discussed, but that is something I'd like to get maybe a couple of them on here to talk about, if that ever was a discussion amongst them when they played there. And, one of them played in one of the greatest college basketball games ever, that Duke-Kentucky game. So that would be an interesting question. Back when we were 18 and 22 years old, we didn't give that much thought because our mindset was playing basketball and getting to the league. We weren't thinking about what it really represented. But that is a really good question. It's something that I would like to learn myself, if guys ever thought about that while they were there playing.
It's very interesting because everybody knew the history. And then after you watch Glory Road, I mean, come on, you saw, And so it's just interesting. I would love if you can get some of those guys on there, because that'll be a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they're avid fans. You know it, Mark. Oh. But that stuff can easily turn from fandom to something different when you try to change their way of life.
I mean, there is no two harder places to play in college basketball that I played, and I played in a lot of places, but Bud Walton Arena in Arkansas, back then and Rupp Arena,
Yeah.
man, you
Yeah.
you can't beat it in terms of atmospheres for college basketball.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Hey guys, call in. Tell us what you think about some of these topics we're going through. 803-570-5031. Call in after the Buzzer of Sports podcast. Weigh in. Tell us kind of what you think about some of the things we're discussing this morning. So moving on, NFL. With the NFL training camps opening next week, let's discuss who you guys think is going to win the AFC North Division. We got football right around the corner. And you know, we got Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Pittsburgh in that division. Who you guys think coming out on top and victorious in that division? Raquel, I already know who you gonna say, so let
It's
me
a
just go and ask
no-brainer.
you.
Yeah, let's see what the young lady
No-brainer.
is gonna say.
Baltimore finished at 10-2 last season, 6-2 in the conference. I think Baltimore is going to easily win the conference. I think they have a chance to get to the Super Bowl this year. I think they have a few pieces, though, that are pending, a few pieces that I think they need to bring together. I would love to see another wide receiver go to the Ravens. I think that makes us much, much stronger on the field. We have a few injuries on that offensive line as well. So we need to be healthy, obviously. But I think the biggest missing piece is going to be that wide receiver, someone that Lamar can get the ball to, and it be easy and not a struggle every game. So I think if we can figure out that wide receiver piece, it's going to be a much easier ride to the Super Bowl. But I'm going with Baltimore.
What about the rest of the order of the league, Raquel? You got three other teams. How do you think they're going to finish? Who's second, third?
You know what? I think I'll be interested to see what Pittsburgh does, in all honesty, because you got. I don't even like Pittsburgh, Jesus, but I think Pittsburgh will be. I think they may surprise us. In all honesty, I love their coach, and I think whenever you have a great coach, you're just always in a position. So I think Pittsburgh could be a surprise. The Browns, Lord. I mean, the Browns are the Browns. And Cincinnati, I have a friend that is a huge Cincinnati fan, and he's like you, Lee. He always wishing and swearing, and he knows what they're gonna do every season, and we see how that turns out. So I think Pittsburgh could be the big surprise if there is one. But all of my pennies are gonna be in the Baltimore basket.
Now, Lee, before you go, I and Raquel, I think this division may be a little more interesting than people think. Okay. Now we probably can all agree the bottom dweller are going to be Cincinnati. Let's just go on and put them at the bottom. But I think that they will be a lot better. I think with signing Joe Burrow, I think he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback. You forget they got Joe Mixon still there, who's had 2,000-yard rushing seasons in his first 3 years, a very versatile back. I think they re-signed AJ Green, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going to be better. Are they going to compete for a league championship? Of course not. But I don't think that they'll be Cincinnati of last year. Now, where it gets interesting for me is the Cleveland-Pittsburgh debate. Pittsburgh is always going to ride on Ben Roethlisberger. Can he be healthy? Can he maintain his health during the season? I'm not putting money on Pittsburgh because I just don't believe Ben can stay healthy for a whole season. I mean, that's just the MO. That's what I've seen. But the defense is solid, with the addition of Minka, who played last year, Fitzpatrick, and some of the other guys that they drafted and they signed. The defense is going to be solid, but we all know it's going to run through Ben Roethlisberger if he can stay healthy. If he stays healthy, they'll make it interesting, but they still don't have enough to win the division. Cleveland is the team that makes it interesting to me. The defense is good. All right. The defense, they got a lot of young talent. The coach last year was terrible, even though I went to school with Freddie Kitchens. He's a former Alabama quarterback. I know Freddie well. But the team was just all out of whack last year. The Myles Garrett thing, some of the things that happened, but they got a lot of young talent on that defensive side of the football. And when they played together, they were pretty good, with Mack Wilson coming together in the middle. But then you get the offense. They signed Donovan Jones-People. I think that's the kid out of Michigan. He's going to be a versatile wide receiver for them. You still got Odell. You still got Jarvis Landry. They added the kid from Alabama, Jedrick Willis, who allowed no sacks his whole season last year with protecting Tua's blind side. He's a great young tackle. So I think if Cleveland, I'm just not sold on Baker Mayfield. That's the only thing with me. And I know quarterback is important. You know, he coming from that Big 12 offense. I still don't think Baker Mayfield's an NFL quarterback.
Who do you
But
have winning the division?
if he surprises us, they can make it interesting.
Oh, this is cool. But who do you have winning the division?
Look, I'm dissecting the division so y'all know. But
Oh,
of
that's
course,
cool. Blah blah blah.
of
Who do you
course,
have winning the division?
I think, of course, the Ravens are the class of the division.
Oh,
I mean, they
okay.
went
Okay,
14 and
okay.
2 last year. Now, what the Ravens needed to do was they needed to shore up some things on the defensive side of the football, and they did that. They went and drafted the kid from LSU, the Patrick Queen kid. He's going to give them some the pass rush that they needed. They re-signed two of their linebackers, which was the big thing they needed. They also added DJ Fluker, Roll Tide, another Alabama boy, but they also signed him to help shore up that offensive line, which will be good. But I think the biggest signing for them, and not a lot of people talking about it, and Lee, you probably know about this, Calais Campbell, the guy they signed from Jacksonville to shore up that defensive line, along with some of the youth that they drafted. I think if they get that in that pass rush, I think it was 21st last year. If they can get it up, in the top 10, they're going to be hard to deal with. If Lamar can have another MVP season, which I don't know, I got to see it again.
Stop hating on Lamar, Mark.
You are a hater. You are a hater.
But when Lamar have this back-to-back season, I don't know if he's going to win the MVP because I think Dak is going to be up there for the MVP.
Oh,
jeez, Lee, you are doing so good.
Jealousy. I do think Dak will be an MVP candidate this year. Their offense probably be the best in the league. But let's go back. We're at the AFC North right now. Hey, I'm spitting facts. I don't,
Oh my God.
I'm just telling the truth. They were number one last year, so they had CeeDee Lamb. That's a no-brainer.
Let's talk about the North. Come on.
Okay.
What you got?
And I'm only gonna touch base on Marv. You were spot on Cincy. They're last. Burrow, I think is going to be a good quarterback. I like his mobility, his arm strength, but just don't have the pieces yet. They'll win more games than they did last year, but just don't have the pieces yet. Offense, I think they'll be better. I love Mixon, by the way. Mixon's great back. But I'm with you. I have Pittsburgh third. I don't see it with Pittsburgh's offense. James Conner is a good back. He's a serviceable, pretty good back. He's not great. They've never recovered from Le'Veon Bell. And so and then they don't really have a number one receiver. Juju's not there. He hadn't proven that. And so it's gonna hurt Ben as far as what he can do. And then Ben he's aging. Everybody talks about Ben like, he's gonna come back, but they give Cam the business for being injured, but Ben's elbow fell off. I mean, and he didn't get hit, it just fell off. It just fell off. So how can you not be looking at Ben and say, well, is he going to be healthy the same way they're butchering Cam? They should be doing the same thing.
Well, we know why. We don't have to say that out loud. We know why.
Oh, Lord. Here's Sister Soldier coming out.
We know why. but we don't even talk about the bar stools with Ben either, but we know why.
True indeed. Their defense is good, Marv, so the defense will always keep them in the game. Yeah. They got a good secondary, but I don't see Pittsburgh challenging Baltimore. Now, Cleveland is interesting, and I agree with you. Cleveland's offense, the Willis boys going to be big time for them. They signed a guard as well.
Yeah.
Their offensive line, and I think offensively, their personnel is as good as anybody in that division.
And I forgot to mention Nick Chubb also.
They got Chubb, and they got the boy from Kansas City that played the crazy boy that keep getting in trouble. What's his name? The running back.
Hunt, Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt. Yeah, they got Hunt. So
that's right.
That 1-2 is great. That offense is ridiculous, man. But you're right. Baker has to pull the trigger. Their defense, from a pure lineup and hit you in the mouth, is good. Secondary is a little suspect because they're young back there. But Cleveland's gonna make a push. I got Cleveland as the number 2 team, and then Raquel, I agree with you that that Baltimore will win the division. But I'll say this. Baltimore has a deep threat. Hollywood Brown is their deep threat. He's going to stretch the field. Hell, Hollywood Brown is faster than Antonio Brown. By the way, Antonio is going to be on the Ravens. Trust me on that. Trust me on this, Raquel.
Why y'all want to ruin Lamar Jackson, man? Don't bring that mess around Lamar, man.
There's nobody in
We
the
ain't got Terrell
NFL.
Suggs in the locker room no more.
Nah, he'll be fine. There's nobody that works harder than Antonio Brown, man. And they're going to get him on one of these contracts, unfortunately, like Cam got, that you got to prove it on the field. And that's going to be a coup for them because they already have the big receivers, and they're going to put Hollywood on one side and Antonio. That's going to be lethal. So I love what Baltimore is going to do. And I don't even worry about Lamar. Lamar going to do his thing. So I agree with Raquel that Baltimore win it. I think Cleveland will come in second. I have Cleveland making the playoffs this year, Mark.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be that good. Stefanski is an offensive guy. Your boy Kitchen just was over his head, man.
He was over his head. Yeah.
Position coach to head coach. He was just over his head, but hey, I would have took the money too, Mark. I mean, it was promotion.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the Ravens in that division. And you're right, Calais, because they couldn't stop the run and they were exposed to Tennessee. So getting Calais, getting Derek Wolfe on that line, and then Pat Queen, the guy's a thumper. He's going to play that middle like Ray Lewis did. I like Baltimore a lot. And truth be told, I think Baltimore represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, not Kansas City. That's my pick.
Well, the good thing is that the season has to play itself out. So I love your enthusiasm. Now, if they sign Antonio, it's going to be hard for me to see how somebody beats them. You're right. But until that happens, and it depends on what Antonio.
So you think Antonio Brown is the difference in them winning or not winning? Because, I mean, they're winning without him right now.
But they didn't win the Super Bowl last year. They didn't win a playoff game last year. So, yeah, I do.
I don't think he's a difference, Raquel, but he's a hell of an addition.
He's a great addition. He's going to be a great addition, but he's not the – Marv, you've had a drink already.
They had no possession receiver last year. Hollywood Brown could take the top off of defense, but Lamar needs somebody that he can count on to get that right. I mean,
I said we need a receiver. I said the missing piece to our team, in my opinion, is the wide receiver. I'm with you 100%. I don't think Antonio Brown. First of all, I don't know if Antonio Brown head gonna be right for a season. I don't know.
That's what I said. But if you can get him and he can be that possession receiver to make those 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7s, those tough out routes that he used to run for Ben Roethlisberger. Look, then you talk to me.
Yeah, Marv, he's still top 5 receivers in the whole entire league. And the things that he does, not a lot of receivers can do because he's a deep threat and he's a short hitch and take it all the way threat. The man, look, we forgetting just how good this guy is. And Raquel, if they got Antonio, he would be a difference maker and then winning the Super Bowl. There's no doubt about that. Now, can they win it without him? I would say yes. But to add him, that's a tremendous addition. And you should get him.
There's no doubt that he would be a great addition if he could stay on the field and stay in the locker room. There's no doubt. I just don't think he's going to be the guy that says we can win the championship or not. So I'm not saying that he wouldn't be an addition, to be clear. I don't want you to put words in my mouth. He's a great wide receiver. He's just crazy.
Boy.
A little challenge, I would say. I don't want to give him a crazy
a little challenge.
Yeah, a little challenge, but also, Raquel, Antonio Brown would make Lamar Jackson that much more better as far as
if we can keep him on the football field and in the locker room. So, I agree with you.
He would if they get Antonio Marv, I look for a repeat MVP season.
There's no doubt about the boy's talent. I think there's no question about his talent. That's not anybody's issue or concern. If that's the case, he would be playing football. He would be on a team. We wouldn't be having this discussion. His athletic ability is not at question here.
Well, I think that the right coach is in place to handle Antonio Brown.
I do too.
I think you got Mark Ingram still there. You got some good presence that could probably handle that person.
You got to make a decision now. You got to make a decision.
I'm just saying, if he goes there, I think that they got the pieces in place to handle him. But that's yet to be seen. I can't
You
wait to have
said
the
no,
control.
don't put him on there because he gonna mess up the locker room. Now
Yeah,
you
a
want
lot-
come on, make a choice. Make a choice. You all over the place. I don't want. I
All
love you. You my
right.
boy, but I don't want to say how back and forth you have been on this guy.
I mean, I just know I'm gonna have to console the two of you come the end of this NFL season. So I'm just trying to
You
prepare
just
myself.
told me hey, I'm making my reservation for Tampa already. I'm going to the Super Bowl. I know who's going to be there on the NFC side. Lamar, there's a lot of South Florida people on that Raven team. Lamar's from South Florida.
Yeah.
Trust me, it'll be a mix. And people, let me say this about Antonio Brown. The Raiders thing, I get it. New England shouldn't have cut it because all he said was what was the truth about Mr. Kraft.
Yeah, but he had a charge against him though. They had to cut him. They had to.
No, Mom, it wasn't a charge. It's the fact that I'm gonna tell you what got him cut in New England when he said, "Well, Mr. Kraft, that's what got him cut in New England when he said y'all hating on me, but Mr. Kraft down there he got a charge and ain't nothing. That's what got him cut in New England.
That's what got him cut. Yeah.
Kraft called Goodell and said, "I don't want this money." Excuse me. But that's how that went. But let me say, last thing I'll say about Antonio, Marvin, and Raquel, it's wrong how the league is treating him too. Look, the man has literally served a 14-game suspension because he's a free agent, and they won't rule on his case. Look, it don't take a year to say whether this man did it or didn't. So I think it's wrong how they're treating him. They need to make a decision. If they're going to suspend him for a few games, suspend him and let this man get on with his life, because when he gets back, you're going to see a beast out there. That's what
the baby said he was retiring, so we'll see.
Yeah,
no, he just said he's coming back. He retired on Wednesday, and on Friday he said he wants the league to hurry up and make a decision so he can play. So I know.
See, mentally, my guy, I don't know.
Guys, call in 803-570-5031. Give me some help. Raquel said I'm flip-flopping like a dead fish over here. So y'all come in and get me on the right track. Let's stay in the NFL, you guys. Who are the top 5 running backs playing in the NFL today? What are your thoughts on that? Lee, go ahead. Hit us with your list real quick, man.
Who, me? Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Because I want to help Raquel out. I know she doesn't. Look, number 5 to me is Dalvin Cook. I love his burst. I love what he can do. He runs with power. He has the speed. Only knock on him is he's been a little nicked up while he's been in the league. But I love Dalvin Cook, what he brings to the table. I think explosive is what I think, Marv. When he hits it, he hits it, and he's gone. So that's my number 5. Number 4, Derrick Henry from the Titans. Big, bruising. Can pick it up and put it down. Not too great out the backfield, but that ain't what they asked him to do. But that's my number 4, Derrick Henry. My number 3 is Christian McCaffrey. 1,000 man. He can do it all, catch the ball out the backfield. Very talented. So I think can do basically anything except pass block. I think that's why I grade him down a little bit as far as pass blocking. My number 2 is Saquon Barkley. It was very close. It was very close to me. Saquon is number 2. What can't Saquon do?
Did you not look at real stats? Because you love to look at stats. Did you not look at any stats? Because
Saquon's a great back. That's why I put him at number 2. Saquon's a very good back. And so he has breakaway speed.
I have all the stats in front of me now.
We're going to let you bring it home, Raquel.
Saquon is number 2. And, of course, the best back in the league is Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys.
The boy ranked number 5 in real life. That's all I'm going to say.
But Raquel, he's won 2 of the last.
In 5 in real life, in real stat life, he's ranked number 5. That's all I'm saying. When we look at real stats, what you love.
We're going to let you bring it home, Raquel. We're going to let you bring it home.
Raquel, he's won 2 of the last 4 rushing titles. He had 1,800 yards from scrimmage this year. He's a beast. He can do everything, including catch the ball out of the backfield, run the ball up the middle, and pass protect, so he never has to come off the field. There's nothing that Ezekiel Elliott can't do, and I would be hard-pressed for anybody, and I'm looking forward to your list, Raquel, to tell me why Zeke is not the top dog. Don't listen to all these people that says Zeke has lost a step. What happened with Zeke last year was Zeke missed training camp, and that set him back a little bit. This year, I guarantee you, he'll win the rushing title because Dallas offense will be number one.
Just like you guaranteed Dak's contract. Just remember your guarantee on Dak's contract.
Oh, you keep saying
just remember your guarantee on Dak's contract as well. Because you made that guarantee. You also made that guarantee, did you not? Did you not?
Dak's contract is
did you not make the guarantee on Dak? Yes or no?
I said
you did. Yes, the answer is yes.
Put them on record.
Dallas would sign Dak. Yes, I did say that. I don't know if I guaranteed it. You have to run the tape back for that. But I said he would sign it.
I think we'll have that for the next show. He guaranteed. But let me give you my 5 real quick so Raquel can bring this home. Number 5 for me, Joe Mixon. He don't get talked about a lot because he's in Cincinnati. But like I said, 2 of the last 3 years, 1,000-yard rusher. He's great out of the backfield. 5, Joe Mixon. 4 for me, Alvin Kamara. Kind of in the same mix of Joe Mixon, some of these guys who can do it all. That's my number 4. Number 3 is McCaffrey for me. Enough said. He is what he is. Number 2, Ezekiel Elliott for me. I mean, I'm not a huge Ezekiel fan ever since he did what he did. Since he did what he did to Alabama back in the day, I ain't never liked him. But he still got to get a man his respect. And number 1 for me is Derrick Henry. Period, point blank in the story. I mean, he carried the team to the playoffs last year.
But Mark, why did you leave out Saquon, Mark?
He hurt all the time, man. I don't know what I'm getting. I don't know what I'm getting from him. You know? Now when he plays, absolutely. But I don't see him enough.
Fair enough.
All right, Raquel, come on.
Okay, come on, Raquel. We've been waiting on this. Let's see what you got.
I studied the stats. I had like my 1 and 2. Like I had my 1 and 2, but I kind of needed to look at stats for the other guys. Now, me, I'm with you with Cook, number 5.
Okay.
We share him in common. We share that. And I'm gonna tell you, I teeted around a great deal with my number 4, and Mixon is my number 4.
Okay. I'm a Joe Mixon guy.
I'm looking at his stat line. He's solid. Went back and looked at some highlights. My number 3, I'm in between. I'm gonna say my number 3 for last, but my number 1 is Henry. Yes, and yes. There you go, Marv. I'm with you on that 100%. Christian is my number 2.
Christian
McCaffrey. We don't have to talk about it. You guys have kind of solidified these guys. That's my number 2.
Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is a toss-up, in all honesty. It's between Carson and Elliott.
You talking about Carson from the Seahawks?
From the Seahawks, Chris Carson.
Chris Carson is a good back, but
yes. Good back.
Every 5 minutes he hurt. He's limping off the field. I mean, I can't give him. He's limping off the field every 5 minutes.
I could not decide if Elliott or Carson would be my number 3. They were smack dab in the middle. I had pros and cons for both. And I'm gonna tell you, like I looked at Elliott's stats, and just name recognition made me put him higher, right? And I just talk about name recognition and highlights, made me put him higher. But when I did the research, and I looked at his stat line, I'm like, oh gosh, he's definitely not number 1. He's definitely not number 2. That's easy.
What didn't you like about his stat line? That's what I want to know.
Oh my. Lee, I know you saw this yourself, and I know you know the stats.
Give me the stats. He was almost 1,300 yards rushing. So
he was, but touchdowns. I looked at his touchdowns and I thought, okay, all right. Compared to the other guys, I looked at his rushing yards. I mean, Lee, on paper, he's just not the best. There's no in between.
1,800 yards from scrimmage. Who had more?
The NFL has him ranked number 5.
Well, the NFL, I don't know what the hell they talking about. See, that's
the NFL are the guys with all the money. I'm just saying.
That's why he be on some of these NFL shows.
He's a good back on an average NFL team. How about we just leave it at that?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
But number 5, I'm with you all the way.
18.
I'm with you, number 5 all the way. We're together.
I can't wait till the season gets started.
We together all the way on number 1.
I'm gonna pound
boy, that boy be potent it.
I'm just being honest. Y'all. I know there's a lot of hate for the Cowboys out there, and I know.
I don't hate the Cowboys. They're just not as good as you say they are.
But that's sad.
I don't hate them. They're just not as good as you say they are.
Be honest about
All
this.
right, I know we're gonna have plenty more hot debates on this and when the season starts. I can't wait to hate on the Cowboys. Yeah, I am a hater because I hate mediocrity, and that's all they've been over the
Oh
years.
my
And y'all swear they
God.
great. So, but
Hit
we're
the
gonna leave
ball.
it at that because I got the last word on that. So let's move on to the NBA, guys. Becky Hammon, she's coaching the San Antonio Spurs in the exhibition games in the NBA bubble. Do you think that a female can have major success coaching an NBA team at this time? What are your thoughts on that? Raquel, start us off with that one.
I mean, the simple answer is yes. I don't think gender matters when it comes to IQ in a sport. I
Yep.
think either you got it or you don't. Either you understand it or you don't. Either you understand offense before it happens, you understand transition or you don't. You can see it before it happens. Great coaches can see it before it happens. Um, her IQ is high. She's already had a lot of success. She's been coaching for 5 years. She's under a great program, great leadership. And I think the most important thing with a woman being successful out of the gate, right, is going under ownership that believes in just what a female can do, and we not focus so much on gender, because I think the people that would say no out of the gate is focused on gender, not basketball IQ, not her record, not her ability to win, not her already successful coaching career. And she's had a lot of success with the Spurs. So the quick answer is yes. She has a very, very high IQ. She played great basketball when she played. She was
She
smart on the
did.
court then. She's always been a coach. If you go back and look at some of the highlights or some of the big games of her career, especially in college, she's always coached the game, and I think she will possibly be a better coach than player. I
Raquel,
think you'll see.
you don't think gender matters at all? And I'm asking from a perspective of the league, not the league and having to come into that environment. You don't think gender will be taken into account?
I think chauvinistic men will make it an issue, but no, I don't think it is. I remember when women start going into the locker room and how big of a deal it was and how all these people cried and yelled and hollered about it. And now it's a norm. I remember when, women were starting to coach, referee, and how it's such a big deal and blah, 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 blah. Those barriers were broken. Even with commentators, right? There was a time where we didn't have female commentators. There was a time where women weren't welcome there, and you have many that are great at their jobs. I think it's just the barrier of getting over the men who still want us to stay in the kitchen. And once you get past that and you set that aside and you realize that coaching and being a referee and all those things, being a commentator is about your knowledge of that particular thing. So for right now, basketball, it should be more about her IQ and her ability to win, not that she has a different body part than a man.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you, Raquel. I think that this
She's
is
going to
the
win a
time.
championship.
I think that she is definitely the person to do it. As you said, to just kind of touch on what you said. I mean, she's put the work in, and I know most basketball players, they want to know that you put the work in and you know what you're talking about, and nobody can refute her knowledge. Nobody can refute the work she's put in. Nobody can refute the fact that she's pretty much won on every level she's been on.
Yeah.
And she's also in the right organization with Popovich, him coming towards the end of his career, the respect that he garners as a head coach in this league. I look for either it to be Becky Hammon with Tim Duncan as her head assistant or Tim Duncan with Becky as the head assistant. I don't know which way they're going to go with it now, but from what I've heard, Tim Duncan is doing really well. I think he's coached some of the G League games. And he's done some other things or some exhibition games. So I look that to be the future of the San Antonio Spurs organization. But I do think that Becky Hammon will be their next head coach. I think the Spurs are going to do it. I think that's the organization to cultivate that and to make it normal. So, but I agree, Raquel. There's no better person to be the first than Becky Hammon. She's put the work in to deserve it, and she can do it.
And she's a winner more than anything. She's a winner. Her basketball IQ is in that Phil Jackson bucket to me. She's a genius when you think about just basketball. And I don't think gender should matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gender shouldn't matter. I think in this regard it will matter. I certainly don't like Doris Burke is one of my favorite announcers for an NBA game. I think she breaks it down very well. She has the right temperament. I really enjoy hearing her do a game. But Marv, I think gender will come into play. Now, I will say this. I agree with you if it's the San Antonio organization, right?
Sure.
That she could elevate to the coach, to the head
First
coach.
thing I said is you have to play for the right organization. That's the first thing I said. You don't have the first anything without being under the right organization, especially when you're talking about a woman, a female breaking barriers into a male-driven industry. You have to be under the right leadership.
I agree. I think that's I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that certainly would be a possibility of her elevating up to the ranks within the Spurs. But if you're asking me if 29 other teams will interview her and make her the head coach, I don't think in today's environment right now, that means I wouldn't hire her, but I don't think in today's environment that'll happen with those other teams who legitimately seek her out, interview her, and make her their head coach. I don't think that would happen. Now, I will say this: the one person that I always thought,
We're talking about. I'm sorry, Lee. We're talking about Becky Hammon. So let's talk about Becky Hammon, right?
I am talking about Becky.
I
Hammon.
want you to drill down more into your thoughts on Becky Hammon and Becky Hammon becoming a coach. And obviously, she's not going to go to another organization. She's going to stay where she is. She's built a hell of a career with the Spurs. So let's talk about Becky Hammon and the Spurs.
Well, that doesn't mean that the Spurs are going to promote her to head coach. That's a reach, Raquel, in my opinion. That's a reach. Now, they may continue to promote her as far as being a bench coach, but that doesn't mean that Becky Hammon is going to jump just because Pop gave her some experience in an exhibition game. That doesn't mean ownership is going to promote her when Pop retires as head coach. That's a reach. That's a stretch.
Saying that's sexist. Saying that Pop gave her anything is ridiculous. She earned everything she's gotten in this organization. They didn't give her anything. They're not giving women anything. She has earned the right to coach that game, just like the men in the past have done so. So
I think Pop
you, in my opinion, are on the fence of, I don't think a woman is ready. I don't think a woman should.
If I was there, Raquel, it would have came exactly out of my mouth. I don't mix my words at all. But if I didn't think a woman could coach men, I would say it. Look, my tongue is not forked. I'll say what I mean. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. I feel, and like I said, that with her, if she stays in the Spurs organization, that there's a possibility she could rise up to that. I don't think and when Pop retires, I don't think that's the choice, Marv. I really don't. Now, that doesn't mean that she can't come up as far as a bench coach and continue to progress. What I was getting ready to say is, look at how Cheryl Miller was viewed by all of the NBA players, executives, because of her tremendous success in basketball in general. If she wanted to be a coach, Marv, I think she, as a trailblazer, could have made that transition without a doubt. You understand what I'm saying, right, Marv? Because she was well respected, not only by in the female basketball world, but also the men basketball world and what she represented. Now, Becky Hammon has forged a trail within the Spurs organization, but you're not just promoted from within in this business. There are 29 other teams that you can interview for, and that's what I was trying to get at as far as the interview process. I still think that there will be some stigmatism out there about her in the locker room as far as the head coach. Do I think she can do it? I don't think that there's an issue with her doing it. I think that it will not happen. So sexist? No, I'm not sexist, but I'm a realist at this point and looking at where I think she is in her career and the perception in the NBA. So
but you also have to take into consideration the league. I mean, the NBA, if we're talking about in terms of a league, is one of the most progressive leagues that we have.
Absolutely.
They've been the first to do
diversity hiring of all the leagues. They're number one.
Absolutely, and I think that even from an ownership perspective, when they did the thing they did with Donald Sterling, the Clippers coach, when they the owner, when they forced him out the way that they did, I mean, and it really led to people realizing how much power the players had in that organization at the time to get him out because they didn't want to play for him. That changed the perception a lot about the way the NBA was run. And I think that just the progress that they've made from cultural issues to they've been at the forefront of a lot of things. And I also think that owners want to win, right? One of the best organizations over the last 20 years in terms of the way they built their organization, not just from winning on the court, but the way they built an organization has been the San Antonio Spurs.
I agree.
From how they draft, from how they recruit from an international
I
standpoint.
agree.
So there's a blueprint to how they run that organization. So, I think that her learning under Pop will put her in a position to be viable for another organization that's looking maybe not like the New York Knicks, who's under the spotlight and all that kind of stuff, but an organization that's looking to maybe, mold a pattern after how the Spurs or Oklahoma City was doing it for a while. I think this is, because we're asking, is it in this climate, in this time, is this the right time? I think this is the right time for her to be able to have a head coaching job.
I think the NBA, while their diversity hiring is of all the leagues they're there, but there are still some things that the NBA needs to work on. Why hasn't Mark Jackson been a head coach, Marv, in your opinion? Why hasn't? He's one of the most brilliant minds in the NBA, but he made a flaw. No, in my opinion, he did nothing wrong. But
yeah,
he was at Golden State. You know the deal. I don't have to say it. Don't give me this stuff about, look, there's still, hey, would I hire based off of a merit? Yes. But I'm telling you how I do the NBA, and there are other things that come into account. Mark Jackson's not working, and we know why, Mark. We know why.
Also, don't take the onus off of Steph Curry and some of those players, though, too. They had a lot to do why Mark Jackson is not coaching in the NBA, or why he stopped coaching that team. Because
that's the deal. We can all be blackballed.
Remember that.
We can all be blackballed, female or male. If we do the right thing.
On ownership, in my opinion, that's why he's not coaching that team or not in the league, really. That for me with Mark Jackson. And so we equate that. I'm not trying to take it away from Becky Hammon, but I'm trying to say the league still has some growth. And so that's how I view it. So we'll see.
The league isn't perfect. While they lead with diversity and they're doing progressive things I know the major league sport is doing, it's not perfect. And we all know that. The players tell us that every single time they get a chance to. So it's not about it being perfect or not perfect, or why, he's coaching or not coaching. We can all be blackballed, period. We do the right thing to the right person. It doesn't matter how fair something is. It doesn't matter how anybody can be blackballed. And obviously I agree with you. Jackson should be coaching. He's one of the greatest minds. I agree. But his situation is a bit different than what we're talking about when we talk about Becky.
How?
And while he's not coaching.
Okay, how?
Marv said, yeah, the players had a lot to do with it. We're talking about, get them out of here. It's just different. We're talking about females breaking barriers and doing something that has never been done before. There's been a black male NBA coach. Okay. There's been a black male NBA coach. So we're not talking about apples and apples, really. We're comparing apples to oranges. We're talking about groundbreaking, history making, legacy defining, something that has never been done. So it's different. Putting him in this conversation minimizes what she or any other woman could do.
I disagree with that.
Being the first, because if we've never had a black male coach, then okay, it would be in the same category.
No, because the focus was not about that. It was about how the league is evolving. So that's why he was injected into the comment. So I disagree with that too, Raquel, because
we're gonna have to agree to disagree, because I totally disagree with the comparison of Jackson when we're talking about the first female ever to coach an NBA team.
We were talking about the stigmatisms that still remain in the NBA. That's what we were talking about. And so that's why I injected Mark Jackson. I think she has an opportunity to continue to progress in the Spurs organization. I really do, and I think she's doing good things. But if you're asking me within the next 5 years, do I think she'll be a head coach? I would say no. And that's what as I look out there, that's what I see, Marvin. It'll be interesting when Pop, New Jersey wants, New Jersey wants Pop, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting if Pop ever left, what they would do. I just don't see it happening, Marv. That doesn't mean she's not qualified, and I think she's doing great things, and certainly her being able to coach one of the exhibition games is no different than Tim Duncan. So it wasn't a sexist comment because Tim Duncan has been the head coach too. So we know that, but it was talking about how they're grooming her. So that's my take. Yeah.
Well, guys, let's kind of stay with the NBA here. Let's do our power rankings real quick since the season's getting ready to jump back off. We know we're seeing some exhibition games right now. What we got? Top 5 in the NBA right now going into this little last part of the season into the playoffs. Who we got? All right. I'm gonna start it off since I'm talking right now. Let me start it off. For me, number 5 is the Celtics.
Cool it down.
Yeah, for me, number 5 is the Celtics. Good depth. They got some young talent, good scoring, got a great point guard that can take over a game if need be. Marcus Smart is tough on the ball defensively. Do I think they can win the championship? No. Do I think they can make it interesting? Yes. Number 4 for me, the Lakers. Look, I watched the Lakers the other day, and yes, I love LeBron and AD, but I'm scared about that bench, and I'm scared about their lack of depth. It worries the heck out of me. Like, LeBron, well, how old is LeBron? 34, 5? What is LeBron right now? He got to be
34, 35.
You putting a lot on the 35-year-old. Now, can LeBron do it? Yeah, of course he can. But that's a lot to put on him. And I just watched that team. I got some doubts. Number 3 for me right now are the Raptors. Okay. Quiet as kept. They top 10 on defense. They top 10 on offense. They probably got the coach of the year again in Nick Nurse, who's done a great job. They got a lot of guys that know their role. They buy in on the defensive end, which is great in the playoffs. So right now, the Raptors are high on my list to make some noise in the playoffs. Number 2 for me, the Clippers, without a doubt. Depth, scoring. They can give you pretty much whatever you want, but the depth for me with the Clippers is what's going to separate them from a lot of teams. So I got them number 2. Number 1 for me right now is Milwaukee. Whenever you can get anybody that can match up with Giannis and do what he does, and they got a lot of depth as well, that always bodes well in the playoff. They're great offensively. They defend. Milwaukee's my top team right now. Go ahead, guys.
I'll go. I'll let you have the last say, if you don't mind, Raquel. You gonna be all right? You look agitated there, young lady. It's gonna be all right. My number 5 is the Boston.
I cannot say what I really desire to say.
We always can
on this show.
There's nothing wrong with speaking your mind. God gives us that right. I'm a Christian. Boston is my number 5, Marv. I agree with you. I like the young talent of Boston, man. Brown and Jalen Green, and even Smart. Smart's a dog to me.
He's a dog.
So I really like him. My number 4 was Toronto. I think they're right. They're poised to challenge for the East, man. They defensive. To say that they have a better winning percentage now than they did with Kawhi was with them is saying a lot about Toronto and what they have and that team. And we underestimated who they would be without Kawhi. So you got to get them the props. My number 3 was the LA Clippers. The leadership, look, and I know Kawhi was great with Toronto, but you see that Toronto's team was great. And so
valid, very valid.
It's something that is bothering me. I think you have 2 people, Kawhi and George, and you have the rest of them. That I think that may play out in a different way. But they're my number 3. My number 2 is Milwaukee. I love Giannis. I saw clip of Giannis hitting like 6 threes in a row, just banging out threes. So if that happens in games, scary. You just don't know what you're gonna be able to do with Giannis. And then my number 1 was the Lakers. You have valid points, Marv. And that's going to be scary because you don't know how this short period of time and how it's going to wear LeBron down. But I still say, if healthy, if he and Anthony Davis remain healthy, I just don't see the matchup for Davis in the playoffs. So I still want to give it to the Lakers, but they're my number one. And we'll turn it over to the young lady and let her educate us here.
I'm Boston at number 5 as well. I think they have a lot of power. They're young, so they're scary. I think they obviously could be a surprise. I have Toronto at number 4. I like Toronto. I think people gave up on Toronto when Leonard left. I think people thought they couldn't win. I think they were heavily underestimated. And what they've showed us is I think we have to respect what they've done. So I do have Toronto as well at my number 4. Clippers at number 3. I mean, I feel like a small part of me feels like Leonard is going to be hurt. I don't feel very confident in his ability to make it through the entire remainder of the season. The Bucks are my number 2. So Lee and I are identical in this, which I'm not very happy about right now, Mark. But Giannis is supernatural, and I'm gonna tell you, when I my son really made me lock down and focus on Giannis. My boy said, "Mom, if you like LeBron, if you love LeBron, how can you not love Giannis?" Is what he said to me, because I wouldn't listen to him. And
good point, young buck. Good point.
I started to really watch, and he's 7. And I said, you know what? This boy is supernatural. I think Giannis is supernatural. And as I really start to pay attention, he makes me feel what I felt when LeBron came into the league. And that's because LeBron is still playing. I really can't release that energy into anybody else right now. But when LeBron hangs his shoes up, I think I'll be a Giannis woman in my current thought process. But Giannis is scary, supernatural. You can't take anything away from him, but I'm a Laker girl because my guy's there, LeBron's there. I think what he's been able to do in the playoffs throughout his entire career, we can never discount him when it comes to playoff basketball. I think he has a better team than he's had his entire time in the league. I just don't think he's had a better.
Now, don't forget the Heat.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm a huge Wade fan too, and we don't talk about him as much in this show at all. We really don't even cover Wade and his career in this show, but I'm a huge Wade fan. But I do think Davis is at the peak of his game, whereas Wade was declining when LeBron got to Wade. I think you have a better Davis than we had a Wade, and Wade was still playing good ball, but he was hurt a lot. He didn't go a year without being injured while he and LeBron played together, and he was a little bit older.
3 of the top 10 players in the league were on that team, though. At the time. That's why I would give that team a little. Say it was more talented. Then you think about some of the supporting cast that they brought in, Ray Allen, and that team with Ray Allen, Marv. That was.
I think all the pieces to that puzzle made it a great team. I don't think you had a 1-2 punch. I think you had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They equally were important, in my opinion, that year. And I think you take one of those pieces away, and we may have got a different result. That's all I'm saying. So I think they were all important. My only worry about the Lakers is the bench. That's scary. That is indeed the scariest part of the Lakers, but they're my number 1. I'm never not going to pick
and wait, but Raquel, if you're gonna bring up Kawhi injury, now you gotta have a concern about AD staying healthy during the playoffs too. Now,
I'm hopeful, and I got a lot of faith. Okay, I'm hopeful, and I have a lot of faith. That's where I stand with that.
Well, I think she's right. Her list is very good, Marv. I mean, it seems like certain things are rubbing off on her, don't you think, Marvin?
It sounds
Trust
like it.
me, my basketball IQ has nothing to do with you.
Oh, I didn't say it was. I just
and if I could have disagreed with you, I would have. Trust me.
Now, listen, there is one team that could be very interesting that none of us brought up, but they got some pieces that could make it interesting. That Miami Heat team.
You're talking about Miami, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm telling y'all.
Miami's good. I like that Tyler Hero boy, Amar. He's a
Look,
budding star, man. And with
they can
And being an
space the
underdog
hell out of
helps
the
them.
floor. What's that, Raquel?
Being an underdog really does help them too, because nobody is watching
Yeah,
for them. And I think that's always an advantage in any sport, as a matter
yeah.
of fact. So yeah, Miami, I
I
saw
mean,
them.
do I
I was
think they
like,
can
ooh,
win? Do I think they can win it? No, but I think they can make
they'll
it. I
scare
think they can make some
somebody.
people sweat.
Yeah, they'll scare
So,
somebody.
And
yeah,
Mark,
they'll
what
scare.
about Denver? Michael Porter Jr. just made it to the bubble. Now look, he gets hurt every 2 weeks, right? So,
Right.
but if healthy, his skill set with Jokic and Murray, they're pretty loaded, man.
With Gary Harris, I
I
mean,
think Portland's going to make some noise too, but it's going to be a competitive bubble. It's going to be a
it
competitive
will
bubble.
be. It will be. But real quick before we move on, guys, what do you think about it? And I was a big person who was kind of against the whole, them restarting the season and the platform and all that kind of stuff. What do you guys think about how they're using that platform right now? The strong comments by LeBron last night about Breonna Taylor, some of them answering interview questions by just answering Breonna Taylor. I mean, how you guys feeling about that right now? How some of these players are taking a stand? Just real quick.
Uh, you know what? A part of me loves it, right? Because that's a sister soldier in me, as Lee would say. A part of me loves it, but a small part of me is like, how effective is that? What does it change? What does it do?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is the other part of me. So a part of me says, yep. Sister Soldier says, yep, yep. Let's beat it to death. But the other part of me says, all right, let's play basketball. I mean, it doesn't change anything. And if you could say to me that saying Breonna Taylor, if it changed something and it gave us value and uh, it forced us or this country to do something different, I would say, yeah, makes sense. But right now, I'm kind of like,
Yeah, I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it real quick because some guys were really kind of stepping out with some comments.
yeah.
Marv, I think it's great because I think what'll happen is if they keep that tone throughout the 8 games and then throughout all of the playoffs, and they keep it, because remember, you're going to have millions and millions of people watching these games and listen to the post conference interviews and things of that nature, and it still again keeps the pulse on where it should be. And so I like the fact that even some of the baseball players, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, were like, they want to see when Breonna Taylor's killers will be arrested. So to keep that as the pulse of the nation and making sure that people don't see it drifting in the background, I think that's an important thing. So I love it. And I love how LeBron came out, man, when saying that because the stigma on Black Lives Matters is a movement. LeBron says it's a way of life for Black people. I love that, man. That was strong. That was powerful. And kudos to him. And I love what those players are doing, man.
Good. Well, let's touch on one topic here in Major League Baseball. I know we've had some good conversations here, so we're gonna have to cut a little bit short. But I did want to touch on 1956, Jackie Robinson's final year in the majors. African Americans contributed for 6.7% of Major League Baseball rosters. Today, it's only 7.7%. Why so few African Americans? What do you guys think the issue is with just young Black men not playing baseball? Quick thoughts on that.
Mark, I'll start real quick. I don't think, I was an executive director at a Boys and Girls Club in Seattle, and we partnered with the Seattle Mariners to do their RBI program, and we focused on inner city youth. Now, the population of Seattle, the metro, there's only like 12% African American, but I don't think the grassroots efforts across the country focuses on baseball. I think you see more focus on AAU basketball and certainly on football than you ever do on baseball from an MLB on down. And I think that steered a lot of people away. It sort of got its little height, this plateau, and then it just dropped like a light as far as African Americans. And then you have to look at a lot of Black youth run track. And
Yeah.
in the springtime, when I played baseball, we always played in summer only, and I could run track in the spring. But baseball, high school baseball starts in the spring. So to decide between track and baseball, a lot of our athletes go towards track. And so it takes them out of the baseball realm. But I think it starts with MLB on down and how they portray it. And because, hey, certainly it's a way to get paid. I mean, look at Mookie Betts getting that
$300 million.
I mean, come on, man. So I think we should expose our African-American youth again to baseball because, hey, man, those people are making some of the highest individual contracts in sports are baseball players. So I think they should be exposed.
No salary cap.
Yeah, no salary cap. You get as much money as you want. So I just think the focus, MLB, they go over and they get some of the Latinos, Hispanic players and bring them over. But I just think the exposure is what's lacking.
Absolutely. And just to kind of piggyback off that, go ahead, Raquel.
I was going to say, I think when I go and I do a lot of work with kids with my nonprofit and the mechanics of baseball, it requires a different skill set. And I think that training is different and we don't have the proper training and the right coaches and the tools to really that peewee level, right? When you create the love for a sport. We don't typically have in underserved communities, low income communities where these African American babies are, the tools to really get them ready. Because when you find a love for baseball in high school, you're gifted and no one knew. But oftentimes, and I don't know, you guys know the White Sox and when Pookie won. Pookie is from Colombia. We have a great relationship with him. My mom, my grandmother and his grandmother. I don't know if you know who Pookie is, but he won with the Red Sox.
I know Pookie. Yeah.
His grandfather played in the Negro League and his great-grandfather. They come from a family of baseball players, naturally gifted and talented, just a gift in that family. But you ask, when did you really start playing? When did you get a coach? They're saying stuff like middle school. Whereas you look at the guys who are in the league, the faces that you see, they're playing at 5. They're learning the tools to that game at 5. And 0.2 seconds is a lot in baseball, especially when you're talking about swinging a bat. So the mechanics of the game, there's no one in those communities teaching. So by the time, African-American guys start playing, they miss the first 5 to 8 years of the training that those other players get, in my opinion.
Well, absolutely. And just to kind of add one more point to it, because we're running up against the time right here. It's the economics of it as well. Baseball is expensive as heck to play.
It's an expensive sport as well. A bat.
It's an expensive sport. And also it's the instant gratification. Baseball is a grind. You don't get the, one day, like Derek Jeter said, you see a guy playing high school basketball, you see him 1 year at Duke, and then the next year he's in the NBA. You don't see that with baseball. Guys got to grind to get to where they get. So a little bit different, but I think it's the economics of it all. Baseball is expensive as heck to play on the youth level. Basketball, not so much. So I think that's where we kind of see that. So good conversations today, guys.
I love it.
We bought it today a little bit. Great conversations, great topics. Lee, I'm gonna let you bring us home today. With whatever your closing remarks or some of the thoughts that you might have of what we talked about today. Bring us home before we close this out.
I was gonna go with name, image, and likeness, but I'm gonna go with go back to the Becky Hammon thing.
I thought you would.
Yeah, because can for me, having 5 sisters, I understand the sexism and things that women face in society. Go back to the Redskins and all that is going on with the sexual harassment allegations. For me, if given a chance, I think women can do anything and everything that men can do. Very similar to the same arguments that they had about Black people versus white people. I just think that in today's times and where we're at, the progressive nature of these leagues may be falling still falling behind and still needs to progress a little bit more to make those things happen. I've been on that Becky Hammond train for a while and looked at her career. And I'm hoping one day she gets a head coaching job, along with, I think, a Don Staley could be an excellent
Absolutely.
NBA head coach. But those opportunities with the ownership there, I think is still too few and far between. So I'm rooting for those guys someday, and I hope that within the next 5 to 6 to 10 years that happens. And I will be one of their biggest fans, Rocky. I just want to let you know. But those are my closing remarks, Marv.
All right.
I love all of the ladies. So y'all just get up to a group.
All right, guys. Well, unfortunately, we've come to our end of the show. Another episode of After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. You guys know what to do out there. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Subscribe, like us. Great conversation today. Really appreciate you guys being honest about how you feel about some of these topics. But again, for After the Buzzer Sports Podcast, I'm your man, Marvin Orange, with, of course, Raquel M.R. Thomas, Mr. Lee Jones, LP in the background. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.